If you could talk a little bit about what this administration and what we need to do to push this administration to really ensure that everybody can be their full selves, that we can all be safe in this country.
Sure. One thing that I think is important, and I'm already appreciating the changes being made by the administration in terms of the diversity of leadership and representation that I see in key positions across government. I think visibility is one of the most important aspects of required for community safety. My mind is going to thinking about the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is still this phenomenon that is happening across our country, across Canada, that few people know about, and there's been just very little resources or response to that issue because Indigenous people are so invisible. And so I think having presence, like having Deb Haaland on the cabinet, right, a cabinet level position, having representation of trans people in positions and other, people of color and marginalized communities there, ensures that we have a voice and input and that we're visible. And so
Yeah.
when we have these types of safety issues in our communities, we have an advocate there. And so I think that's an important step that this administration is taking, that is going to support the community's agenda around safety. I think the other part that is just really pivotal is thinking about how we begin to repair um, the dehumanization of lives, that that force that was in the past 4 years, that hatred, that was just fueled by the previous administration and the previous leadership. I think really listening to and centering and supporting Black lives, Indigenous folks, and other people of color and communities that have been just dehumanized by white supremacy, that facilitates and allows for police brutality, right? That allows for violence against our bodies in a way that in ways that are not. Where people are not held accountable. So I think that type of healing work that I'm hearing this administration talk about, I'm all about it. I'm all about healing. I'm all about unity, but we can't be blind to the fact that there are many people out there who still devalue our lives, and our safety is a matter of concern. So I'm looking to resources and support that are coming behind those words around healing and unity that are actually going to ensure protection of our people, and that begin to really lift up and demonstrate that our lives matter and that our lives have value by allocating resources, right, and defunding the police and defunding all of those places that that are militarized, our law enforcement and in the military, where we don't need those resources, but we're valuing people enough and loving people enough that we're actually investing in education and health and safety, and other ways of protection. So that's, we'll see where the money goes, and we'll follow that trail, and we'll hold this administration accountable for how they are valuing or not valuing our safety.
Absolutely, absolutely. We talk about budgets as moral documents, right? Are we
Yeah.
valuing this framework of fear that has such a long history in this country, or are we actually supporting a culture of care that produces, I believe, the real safety, right? When people have a roof over their head and food on the table and can go to their place of worship fully themselves, or go outside to work where people have work and have a future ahead of them. That those things are really the fundamentals of safety in my mind. And I just really appreciate you naming that and naming that reinvestment that needs to happen. I wanted to close with a question just around, this historical moment. A lot of folks saw the insurrection on January 6th and thought, this is not America. And there were a lot of people of color who are like, well, actually, we've had this relationship with other countries across the globe, and many indigenous leaders also said, well, let's not forget actually what happened right here in this country. And I wonder, one of the things I loved is being able to quote you in Defund Fear, your book, Decolonizing Wealth, and just calling attention to the treatment of indigenous people and some of that history. And I wonder what's instructive about that history and ongoing reality, um, for every community inside the United States.
I really do believe that in order to move forward as a country, when we imagine what peace and safety and communities that are thriving, when we imagine what that looks like, I think that we have to go back and examine how we got to where we are now, where that imagination is not the case, right? Why are we having these grotesque acts of white supremacy occurring on U.S. soil? And for me, it's because we have not come to terms with our original sins and the original traumas that have occurred in the past 500 years on this soil. When we think about colonization and genocide, and slavery and all of these like horrific violent things that are part of our history, they have left deep wounds into the soul of this country, and we have refused until recently to even have conversations about it. So I think that we must, as a community, grapple with and come to terms with the history and walk into that sad, dark place and have a process of truth and reconciliation, in order to begin to move forward and to be the type of country that I think we aspire to be. So that's my hope. Looking forward is that we're at a place after 2020 that we've experienced so much together as a country, through collective grieving around this pandemic that left no one untouched or we were all impacted by it in some way or another, with seeing so much death, Black and brown death, especially through the pandemic, through police violence, that I think that I'm hopeful that we're reaching a place in our soul that we're saying enough is enough, and for once and for all, we'll begin to grapple with these wounds, and we will think about reparations. We'll think about healing that, with roles for all of us involved in that process.
Right on. I really appreciate you bringing it back to hope. And I said that was the last question. I want to ask you one more, which is just, what's a person, place, thing, something that really gives you hope in this moment as we close out?
The people for me that are giving me hope are just actually young people. I'm just amazed when I have the opportunity to be in community with youth leaders, and see them speaking. The poem, that was read at the inauguration. I'm so hopeful because I'm like, man, when I was 21 or 22, I had no clue about what was happening in the world. So young people now are so enlightened, and they're so connected, and they care, and they have been able to transcend so much of the baggage that I think that maybe my generation is holding on to. So I feel very safe and comfortable, thinking about the next generation, or the current generation of leaders that are going to take us forward. So those future ancestors really inspire me, and so that's what it's all about for me.
Right on. Thank you so much, Edgar. Deeply appreciate you. Folks should get Decolonizing Wealth if you haven't already. And just want to say thank you so much. Really appreciate the time and the support. And I will talk to you soon.